of the day is from Ordinary People Change the World. So these are our biographies, and the one I'd like to read next is I Am Harriett Tubman by Brad Meltzer. And I'd like to see, how does this connect to Fearless Mary? Where do you find Harriet is fearless? So as you listen to the story, and are there other characters we've read about that connect to Fearless Mary and Harriet and their fearlessness in life? So we're going to read I Am Harriett Tubman. I am Harriett Tubman. And I notice the houses. And they're small and made out of wood, and so the story is definitely taking place in the past. Do you know what the North Star is? It's one of the biggest stars in the sky. Unlike other stars, which may seem to move, the North Star always stays where it is. When you find it, it'll show you which way is north. Today, people know my name is Harriett Tubman, but when I was born, I was called Araminta or Minty. I was the fifth of 9 children born in Maryland around 1822. When's your birthday? I don't know. How can you not know your own birthday? It's because I was enslaved. So slaves weren't allowed to know their birth date, and they definitely didn't celebrate birthdays. Makes me feel sad. Maybe you too. Back when I was growing up in certain parts of the country, if you were black, you were most likely enslaved. You didn't have a choice. Being enslaved meant we were forced to work without pay. We were treated terribly. I cut my hand. I don't care. Keep working. Can we have water? No, keep going. We lived in tiny shacks with no windows. We slept on the floor or in boxes filled with straw. As kids, we had to wear sacks, and they certainly didn't celebrate our birthdays or keep records of when we were born. Worst of all, being enslaved meant we were property, no different from a horse or a piece of furniture. That meant my family, my mom and dad included, was owned by someone else. They could sell us, and they did. Well, where are my sisters going? Our owner sold them. They'll have new owners now. Please, Mama, please don't let them take us. Slaves were supposed to do whatever our owners told us to do. The next time they came, though, my mother was ready. Someone wanted to buy my younger brother. She had asked other slaves to help her hide my brother in the woods for nearly a month, but eventually they found him. We're here for your boy. You can't have him. What'd you say? You heard me. The first man comes into my house, I will hit him square in the head. It was a powerful moment, my mother standing up to those men. Was it dangerous? Definitely. But it was right. After that, they didn't sell my brother. As early as I can remember, I love listening to my mother tell stories. She taught me some of life's most important lessons. Being enslaved, it was against the law for us to read or write. But she told me stories from the Bible, including the tale of Moses. He was the leader of the Israelites. He led them out of slavery to freedom. Freedom from slavery? Huh? I like this story. When I was around 6 years old, it was my turn to start working. I still lived with my family, but my owners hired me out to another farm. See that water? We set traps for muskrats in there. Get in and see if we caught any. But, but the water's freezing. You talking back to me? You get in that water or else. What would happen if we didn't do what they said? Our owners would whip us or worse. You stopped working? Now you're in real trouble. I know it's scary, but by hearing my story, I hope you'll find strength you never knew you had. That's what happened when I was around 7 years old. I was working in my owner's house and went to grab a lump of sugar from a nearby bowl. I'd never tasted sugar before. It looked so good. How dare you touch my sugar? She reached for something to hit me with. I ran as fast as I could. When I got to someone else's farm, I hid in their pig pen. That's how scared I was. For 5 days I stayed there hiding in the mud, fighting the pigs for potato peelings and scraps of food. To me, she is just fearless. She is a fearless Mary, fearless Harriett. But there's lots of examples, but I definitely think that is very fearless of her because she's very young. Eventually I was starving and came back. When I did, they beat me, they hurt me. But now people started to realize I wasn't afraid to protect myself. By the time I was 12, I was working outdoors every day where the hardest work was done. I hoed, I harvested, and I lifted heavy barrels of flour. I got so strong and was chopping so much wood, even the men could barely keep up. How much did you chop? Half a cord? Girls can't do that much. You tell her that. Working in the fields gave me more than physical strength. It gave me time to learn from other enslaved people, time to consider new ideas. Did you hear? 3 slaves escaped from the Brodus plantation. Escaped? They went up north, out of Maryland, where slavery is illegal. Up there, everyone's free, just like we should be. During that time, I spent many nights looking at the sky. My father was the one who taught me about the North Star. It always points north. That's where black people are free, right? In the north. Exactly. Follow the North Star, and you'll always know you're heading in the right direction. Since slavery was so terrible, you may be wondering why we didn't all run away. It was nearly impossible. One night, while doing errands at a nearby store, I saw an enslaved man who had left his farm without permission. Grab him! He belongs to me! I could have stopped that man from running, but I refused to. Enraged, a supervisor from the farm picked up a heavy weight, aiming for the slave. It hit me instead. Hard. I got knocked out. It was an injury that forever changed my life. Since I didn't die, I decided God had a plan for me and was guiding and protecting me. After my injury, I started having vivid dreams, so very specific dreams. I'd be flying like a bird over fields and towns, over rivers and mountains. In the air, I'd reach a great fence, and on the other side would be a big, beautiful field. But each time, no matter how hard I tried, I could never get over that line. When I was around 22, I got married and got rid of my childhood name. Now I was Harriett Tubman. Soon after, I found out that I was about to be sold. What should we do, Harriett? Our new owner may be even meaner than this one. Someone else who could take me from my family. And hurt me. I knew there was only one choice. You can see the look of determination on her face. I must escape. My brothers and I planned to escape, but they got scared and turned back. So I went all by myself. I traveled by night, following the North Star, just like my father had taught me. This is the way. It'll always lead me right. I stayed in the houses of people who wanted to help us find freedom. Even white people. There are slave hunters all over. Wear these men's clothing so no one will recognize you. Thank you, you're saving my life. I was now traveling on what was called the Underground Railroad. It wasn't a real railroad. It didn't have tracks or train cars, and it didn't go underground. It was people who didn't like slavery secretly helping people escaping from slavery. But it did have special stations, safe hiding places run by black and white helpers we called conductors. It even had its own signals. The password for the next safe house is a hoot sound like an owl. Use that and they'll give you a place to sleep. Thank you for protecting me. On the Underground Railroad, we were safe. Eventually, I made it to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Slavery was illegal there. I was free now, no longer enslaved. Soon, I had a job. I had a regular job cleaning and cooking, and a regular place to live. I could have stayed there forever. But then, I got news from where I used to live in Maryland. One of our nieces and her family, they're about to be sold to a new owner. What should I do? Or what should we do? The answer was obvious. I need to go back to help them escape too. That's exactly what I did. A year after I escaped, I snuck back into Maryland. Thanks to my own trip on the Underground Railroad, I knew people who would help us. We can hide them in here. When it's dark, we'll sneak them out. We'll sneak them onto a boat and get them out of the state. Harriet, you sure this is smart? If you get caught helping them, they'll sell you back into slavery. You'll lose your freedom and everything you have. No question, it wasn't safe, but it was right. Fearless. In a daring escape, we snuck my niece and her family to the closest city, Baltimore, Maryland. Follow me! Then, out of the state, to Philadelphia. So we're free now? We're not slaves anymore. You're free. They were the first people I rescued, but they certainly weren't the last. On my next trip back to Maryland, I helped free my youngest brother, whose name was Moses, as well as 2 other men. The way you're leading people to freedom? You sure I'm the one who should be called Moses? After that, I made another rescue trip. And at this special point right here, you sure I'm the one that should be called Moses? There's a story that just got released on Harriett Tubman, and her name is Moses. So I'll have to come back and make that connection. After that, I made another rescue trip, and another. I rescued family and friends. On the Underground Railroad, we used hiding places like attics, potato cellars, and barns. Some folks even built secret tunnels and hidden rooms, like this fake closet. In here, you'll be safe. Come on, follow me. I also continued wearing disguises. Why are you dressed like an old lady? So no one will recognize me. Put this on. You're going to get out of here. Follow me. That woman, she's saving our lives. With each trip, our Underground Railroad helped more slaves escape. Soon, they started calling me the Moses of my people. Now she's the one who's leading us to freedom. It took a lot of help from other members of the Underground Railroad, like John Brown, another great leader who fought so that black people could be free. I'm so impressed with Harriet's skills and bravery, I started calling her General Tubman. You can see their names: Thomas Garrett, William Still, John Brown, and Lucertia Mott. To stay out of sight, I traveled by night, sticking to the back roads. I also made many of the trips in the winter, when people wouldn't be outside their homes. Occasionally, it was so hard to walk over the mountain passes, even the bigger and supposedly stronger men would want to stop. You sure it's safe? It looks deep. The water's cold, but you'll make it. No hurry. Now, hurry! Before anyone sees us, follow me. I always kept them going, leading the way. On this particular night, we ran out of money. But I was so committed to keeping everyone safe that I gave away some of my own clothing, including my underwear, to pay for the place where we slept. On another trip to buy some live chickens, I spotted one of my old masters, someone I used to work for when I was enslaved. As he came near me, I pulled on a string around the chicken's legs and made them flap and scream. Boop, boop. He was so distracted by the noise he never realized he was this close to catching me. Over 11 years, I went back to Maryland 13 times, personally freeing around 70 people. Fearless. To keep them safe, I led many of them to Canada, which is where I brought 5 of my siblings, my niece, and even my own parents. My family had been separated for nearly 7 years. Reunion. The more I fought against slavery, the more I realized that the only way to win was to end slavery itself. That chance came as the Civil War began. The northern part of the country wants to stop slavery. The South wants to keep it. At first, I took care of wounded soldiers, but soon my best talents were put to use. As a master spy for the North, I led groups of scouts into South Carolina to scope out what the other side was doing. Shh! This way. They won't see us coming. Follow me. Fearless. This is Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Look at this information she's collected. Harriett Tubman and her spy ring are remarkable. Soon after, I became the first American woman ever to lead an armed raid into enemy territory. With the information we found, we successfully fought the Southern soldiers. Most important, we proved that black people could serve in the military just as well as white people. Follow me. Eventually, the North won the Civil War and slavery ended. But that didn't mean my battles were over. I became a community activist, then traveled around the country talking about injustice. Did you know that after the Civil War, black soldiers were still paid less than white soldiers? They even sent us to different hospitals and made us pay for our own uniforms. That's not fair. After the war, I was so poor. I had to burn pieces of my fence for firewood. But as always, I kept battling, helping those who needed it. Fearless. Harriet, you have no money. Why are you inviting people into your home? They have no place to go. How can I turn them away? You're safe now, folks. Follow me. When I was nearly 90 years old, my dream of helping others grew even bigger as I established a new home in Auburn, New York for the poor, old, and sick African Americans. We'll take care of you here. In my life, I was told I couldn't make my own choices. Fearless. Told I would never escape. Fearless. But I did. Fearless. I fought for my own independence. Fearless. And once I had breathed the air of freedom, I knew I needed to help others breathe it too. Fearless. The measure of success isn't what you achieve for yourself, it's what you do for others. Powerful words of wisdom. Think of yourself as a bird. Some days you'll climb high, some days you'll fall. But when you pass the clouds and reach the top, you have a choice. You can stand up there and enjoy the view, or you can go back down and bring others up to join you. Heart and fearless. Heart, strength, faith, hope, fearless. Did you know that Harriett Tubman also spoke up for women's rights, working with Susan B. Anthony to make sure women got the right to vote? Today, there are dozens of schools and parks named after her, as well as this statue in New York, recognizing her work with the Underground Railroad. What she did wasn't easy, but it was right. I'm following her. Who's that? Martin Luther King. I'm excited that she'll be on the $20 bill, the only woman or African American on American paper money. When you help yourself, you can fly. But when you help others, you truly soar. Listen to the end. Words of wisdom. When you help yourself, you can fly. But when you help others, you can soar. In every life, we face hard decisions. At those times, we can make the safe choice or the right choice. Would you put yourself at risk to help someone else? Would you stand up to someone mighty in order to help someone who is weak? To answer those questions, you must follow your heart, your own North Star. It will always point you in the right direction. I am Harriett Tubman. Follow me. I will lead the way to freedom. And here's her timeline. Real pictures of her. All the way through the 1800s. And she dies here on March 10th, 1913. And this in 2016, and she gets her picture on the $20 bill. Fearless. Fearless. So in your journal, I'd like you to write about fearless. You just heard about two characters, Harriett Tubman and Fearless Mary. What they have in common. And don't just say fearless, explain it. And what lesson did you learn for your life? What are they trying to teach you? What do they want you to do with yourself in your life?